Hello, good morning, and thank you for joining our webinar. It's a collaborative webinar delivered by Capita and Cloud Trade, PEPPOL made easy for the NHS. So warm welcome to everyone. We have around 25 attendees from various NHS organisations joining us today. There'll be a structure to the webinar and the presentation. Firstly, before we do that, I just want to go through the foundations, give you a view and description of really an insight into PEPPOL. So PEPPOL enables government organisations and private companies to exchange electronic trading documents over an interoperable European-wide network. PEPPOL aims to save money and reduce the carbon footprint while increasing visibility and controls within organisations adopting it. UK public sector organisations must be in a position to receive and process electronic invoices based on the EU standard in order to comply with EU Directive 2014 by April 2019. PEPPOL specifications are compliant with the European e-invoicing standard. Okay, just in terms of who we've got with us today and who will be presenting. So for those who don't know me, I'm Chris Fletcher and I'm NHS Client Director. I've been with Capita for nearly 2 years now, working with local government and NHS, and in the last 6 months I've turned my focus to specifically work with our customers and partners. We also have Richard Manson on the line from Cloud Trade, our client director there. Richard is also a co-founder as well as client director for Cloud Trade, and for the last 20 years has been helping organisations create efficient and effective purchase-to-pay functions. More recently, Richard has been heavily involved in the development of Cloud Trade's PEPPOL service and the subsequent delivery of e-invoicing and PEPPOL service into NHS clients. And also joining us today, we're very privileged to have Carmen. Carmen has been with the PEPPOL Authority Lead for the UK Department of Health and Social Care, coordinating the activities for the rollout of PEPPOL standards for NHS England. Providing guidance and ensuring compliance with interoperability requirements. She was the director responsible for the adoption of PEPPOL standards during the PEPPOL project in 2010 and 2012. Carmen is an e-procurement advisor of the European Commission on policy, interoperability and governance and has been the driving force in invoicing standardisation in Europe. Carmen has been a member of various expert groups of the European Commission, such as the EC Stakeholder Expert Group on Public Procurement, EC Payment Systems Market Expert Group, and the EC Expert Group on e-invoicing. So just a little bit of housekeeping. We will be running a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. We'll also be doing a couple of polling questions, and there'll be a survey at the end as well, just really to get some views and insights on how you'd like us to be in touch with you, or how we communicate with you post this session. So what will the webinar cover? Run through that. So what is PEPPOL and how does it fit into Scan for Safety? What are the benefits for an NHS trust? Who does it impact and what are the timelines? How it all works? How can Capita in partnership with Cloud Trade help you with your PEPPOL journey? So to start this all off with, we just want to take a bit of a view and insight from the attendees. So we have a poll question. And the question is PEPPOL already a project on your roadmap? So I'll give you all the opportunity to answer that now. So you either want to say, yes, we've already started. Yes, we plan to look at PEPPOL within the next 12 months. Yes, we plan to look at PEPPOL in over 12 months. Or no, we are not currently considering PEPPOL. Perhaps it's not part of your plans right now. So we'll give you a few seconds to poll your answers. Okay, guys, so thanks very much. We'll be closing the poll off shortly, if not already, so it's closed. Go on, Melanie.
All right, the results we have so far are 40% of you are saying that no, we got no answers, but 25% of you have said yes, we plan to do PEPPOL within the next 12 months. So thank you very much for participating in that poll.
Great. Well, that's excellent. Thank you, Melanie. Thanks for sharing that. So briefly now, I'm just going to talk about Capita and Cloud Trade in partnership and what that means, essentially. So I'll try to be short and concise on Capita Integrated Business Solutions, as many of you are customers. But essentially, we've got 30 years of experience working in the financial sector with a core focus on healthcare and specifically within the NHS. Just to introduce our strategic partner, we're really excited to be working with in this area around PEPPOL and Scan for Safety, etc. So Cloud Trade specialise in providing electronic invoicing and PEPPOL services into the public and private sectors with a strong heritage delivering solutions to the NHS. I think just to cover off a little bit more around that, like I said a moment ago, we've forged a strategic partnership we believe is going to derive value and benefit to our NHS customers, and the remainder of my part of the presentation, leading on to Richard's and then Carmen's, will hopefully will evidence that. And so, why are we doing this? Well, ultimately, we've got a whole bunch of shared knowledge to deliver insights and best practice to our market in the NHS. Provide you with a wider choice of solution, Cloud Trade being able to integrate with your Integra solution. Also, that's to give you what's best-in-class solution that meets legislative and operational efficiency requirements, which I'll go on to talk about a little bit more in a moment. Integra Centros is compliant with PEPPOL and GS1, which is obviously very crucial. I think we've already covered off the fact that we've got great heritage between both organisations in the NHS. Right, so moving on really into more of the body of the presentation, briefly going to outline how we're speaking to the digital agenda presently. I've got 4 points up here, but I think I can really cover that off in 3 areas for me. So in terms of the digital agenda, I could talk around finance and e-invoicing and procurement, which both of our organisations specialise in. We're going to look at meeting legislative requirements and being compliant, and also touch on operational effectiveness and how we drive efficiency. So briefly, e-invoicing even and procurement. So requirements to embrace digital financial management. So we know there's a horizon coming up in the near future around the e-invoicing standards. So it's whether you're prepared for that now or you're going on a journey to prepare yourselves for it, and you may be looking for insight and guidance from experts to help you with that. I think what a staggering fact here around the invoicing that can result in £2 billion worth of annual savings for the public sector organisations. See, that's a headline figure. And we look to substantiate that and provide solutions to help with those savings. Supported with Integra Centros purchase to pay and Cloud Trade, so that's ultimately how we're proposing we're going to help deliver things for you. Just a few points around Centros and a Cloud Trade solution in terms of what it actually does. So improved visibility, improved efficiency, productivity. The key one on there really is mainly around the fact that it's PEPPOL and GS1 compliant. Just a flavour of what it's going to deliver for you. Yeah, moving on to legislation, transparency and compliance. You know, a big question of how can I be both transparent and compliant and transparent and meet the legislative requirements around PEPPOL. Looking at how our solutions are delivered, completely auditable, digital records that interact directly with third party, secure, real-time reporting, automated workflows. We're trying to reduce the amount of manual intervention, automate where possible, which will ultimately drive more efficiencies and do that in a secure manner and with the most effective use of your data. Driving efficiencies. How can I drive efficiencies and strip away manual process? I just covered this off briefly, but ultimately what we're driving there is the outcome, predictable costings for software, or drilling down into reporting, giving you more visibility, reduction in manual processes, automation of workflows, and alignment and visibility of procurement. So I think just before I hand over to my colleague to take on, I think the main thing here around the speaking to the meeting the digital agenda is we can all agree that it's no longer a question of if or when. It's here and it impacts our work and home life. I think the better question is how. How do we harness the power of digital technology whilst remaining compliant, and perhaps also who, as in who do you partner with when you go on your journey around digital transformation, and who you're going to trust when you're going, with looking at PEPPOL standards and meeting these legislative requirements. Okay, well, thank you very much. That's all from me for now. I'm going to pass on to Carmen, who'll be taking you through the next part of the presentation. So, Carmen, are you there to take over?
Yes.
Fantastic.
Good morning. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So I will introduce PEPPOL and its role in the Scan for Safety program, and the evolution of and adoption of the PEPPOL standards so far. So, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Okay, good. So, Scan for Safety is a pioneering initiative that is led by the Department of Health and Social Care and developed by NHS Trusts that is improving patient safety, increasing clinical productivity, and enabling supply chain efficiencies across the NHS. Scan for Safety achieves these aims by driving standardization across healthcare. And the adoption of the initial scope of Scan for Safety by all acute trusts in England will in itself generate efficiency benefits of over £1 billion in 7 years. Scan for Safety is about the adoption of common ways of working across healthcare, supported by 2 international standards, GS1 and PEPPOL. The opportunities for Scan for Safety are broad and varied, ultimately covering all areas of healthcare. And in order to make adoption manageable, an initial scope was agreed that limited activity to just acute trusts, and to have 3 core enablers: place, product, and patient, and 3 primary use cases: inventory management, purchase to pay, and product recall. Clearly, the focus of this webinar is purchase to pay. And to that extent, the PEPPOL standards are a key pillar for delivering this use case. So PEPPOL stands for Public Procurement Online, and it is a set of specifications that enable cross-border electronic procurement. The use of PEPPOL is governed by multilateral agreements, and PEPPOL in itself is owned and maintained by Open PEPPOL, which is a non-profit international association. So PEPPOL enables government organizations and private companies to exchange electronic documents over an interoperable network, which started started with a European focus, but it's now expanding globally. It is indeed a set of open and interoperable technical specifications for the full e-procurement cycle. The Department of Health mandated the use of 3 messages in particular: purchase orders, electronic invoices, and dispatch advices. So these are in scope for PEPPOL adoption in the NHS. It is important to clarify that PEPPOL is not a solution, is not an e-procurement system, but it essentially provides a set of specifications that can be implemented in the existing e-procurement or invoicing solutions and exchange services to make them interoperable between each other. The role of service providers is mainly that of an access point, which essentially is a gateway that connects all the organizations that are already on the PEPPOL network. So historically, specifically for electronic invoicing, we have seen the deployment of so-called 3-corner models, where that is the most common model employed also when a trust and a supplier share a common access point. Essentially, there is a service provider between a buyer and a supplier, and the service provider is accountable for the services and also for supplier onboarding. This is, let's say, the upside. The downside is that it represents a closed network, and interoperability with other networks, meaning with other service providers, of course, is possible, but it's difficult to achieve and can be costly. So the key reason why the Department of Health selected PEPPOL as a standard for the purchase-to-pay cycle is because of its 4-corner model. So PEPPOL is based on it's part of its policy on a 4-corner model where the buyer and supplier can select freely their preferred access point. And this is why it's 4-corner, because you have a buyer, a supplier, and 2 access point providers. So buyers, of course, are able to receive invoices, but any other procurement documents from suppliers associated with any access point. The downside, if you can put it that way, is that depending on the business model, but in general, also suppliers will pay the services for an access point. As I stated, this is really the key reason why the Department of Health selected PEPPOL. We have seen in the NHS that there are still a number of, let's say, 3-corner models, which is fine. But what we have really tackled is the interoperability between these networks, and we've been, fairly successful in ensuring this in the last 12 to 18 months. In terms of benefits, of course, PEPPOL represents a standardized way of carrying out electronic procurement, and of course, there are benefits in terms of lower operating costs, visibility, and controls. And for comfort safety, the key benefit is improved patient safety. And in terms of PEPPOL, as I stated, it's the open and interoperable network that really makes a difference. In terms of rollout, the Department of Health started in 2014 with the NHS procurement strategy. And then we moved on to a demonstration of technology that I actually coordinated with my team, and that essentially was part of a selection process for the Crown Commercial framework agreement, which includes 17 access point providers. Then we started phase 1 with the early adopters, the demonstrator sites, with Derby, Leeds, North East, Plymouth, Salisbury, and Royal Cornwall. We are now into, let's say, an early majority phase 2 of the adoption. And in particular, we've seen the Northeast patches and EP trusts coming on board, and also the health trusts. And we will see an increased number of trusts adopting PEPPOL within the next 9 months. There is also adoption of PEPPOL outside of the European Union. PEPPOL authorities have been established in Singapore, Australia, and New Zealand recently, and there are also access point providers in the US established, and there is a US initiative focused on interoperability that is looking also at PEPPOL as a potential model for deployment of invoicing in the US. So in terms of UK focus, there is certainly political commitment from the UK government in seeing Scan for Safety rolled out across the NHS. This was also reaffirmed by Matt Hancock in February during a speech at the Royal Society of Medicine. And needless to say that the Scan for Safety program and the adoption of PEPPOL standards is fully consistent with the NHS long-term plan to ensure and mandate the enforcing of technology standards that ensure interoperability of data and systems. So with that, I will leave the floor to Cloud Trade.
Carmen, thank you for that. It's Richard Manson here from Cloud Trade. I just wanted to set the scene a bit about and talk for a couple of slides about Cloud Trade, where we currently provide services and what those services are. So just to set the scene, Cloud Trade provides e-invoicing services now to over 40 NHS clients. In fact, it's actually now closer to about 50, I believe, and process in excess of 2.5 million NHS invoices every year from about 7,000 NHS suppliers. So we have got a great track record, I'd say, actually, in the NHS providing electronic invoicing services. And PEPPOL is a natural extension to e-invoicing. Part of the reason why we've got so many invoices and suppliers coming through and suppliers on board is because we aim to actually make it as easy as possible for a supplier to join the party. So Cloud Trade's e-invoicing service, our core e-invoicing service, removes the barriers for supplier adoption. What do we mean by that? Well, it's all about making it as simple as possible for the supplier to send electronic documents. And for us, and for most suppliers, it's simply a case of sending an application-generated PDF or similar document, whether that be HTML, Word, CSV, we don't really care. And that would be sent via email. Our service sits in the cloud in partnership with Integra and Capita, receives the invoices via email, converts or maps all the data that's carried in that document, and presents it in a format that can be ingested into Centros. And I should say, for those people that aren't aware, when a PDF is generated by an application, in almost all instances, it carries all the data needed for the back end. So it's not really any different to an EDI or XML file. The only difference is the way it's been structured. Our technology, which has been patented in Europe, in Australia, and the US, acts on the data that's been carried in that application-generated document to map it to the format needed by Centros. So we don't do OCR, we don't like OCR, and we can never make mistakes that OCR makes. We can never mistake a B for an A to an L for an I or an O for a 0. We guarantee 100% data quality because we're acting on the data that's carried within that document. So PDFs are by far the most popular, but we can do the additional stuff as well. So if a supplier wants to send EDI or XML, not an issue. Transfer via SFTP or HTTPS, not an issue. We process the document exactly the same way. And I should also say is we act as the front door to your finance function. So all validation rules that you would typically have in place, we put them into the platform so that you only get a validated data straight into Centros. An example of that, if you've got a no PO, no pay policy, we can put that validation rule in place. And if an invoice comes in that doesn't quote a PO, we can send it back to the supplier. For some clients, we even have rules that say, actually, if there's not enough open value on that PO, send it back to the supplier. So we act as your front door. And as I mentioned, we work with over 40, close to 50 NHS trusts now. And the reason, and we play on the fact that we remove the barriers to supplier adoption. And that just allows us to really deliver value and benefit to our clients in the shortest possible time frame. This is a graph for one of our clients, Newcastle upon Tyne NHS Foundation Trust. We went live in December, and within 3 months, we're processing at a rate of 7,100 invoices a month. That's equivalent to 84,000 invoices a year. And just think, within 3 months of going live, we went from 0 to equivalent of 84,000 invoices or paper invoices removed from their finance function in under 12 weeks. So, I apologise, I'm still not getting the hang of this wheel, so I'm going backwards and forwards on the slides. That was our core e-invoicing service. What PEPPOL allows us to do, and what you get, the benefits you get from working with Capita and Cloud Trade, is that you get one service provider and 2 networks. So you get the core e-invoicing network that Cloud Trade already has. Now, thousands and thousands and thousands of NHS suppliers already transacting via us. But also, as an accredited access point that's been working in this area for the last 5 years, you get access to PEPPOL. So if a supplier is registered on PEPPOL, whether that's a supplier that's been registered on PEPPOL through us or through another access point, you have the ability to receive invoices from that supplier. But you also have the ability as an NHS trust to send orders, dispatch notes, etc., to suppliers that are registered on PEPPOL. So Cloud Trade, in partnership with Capita, as said, gives you ability to access 2 networks from one service provider. I just want to touch briefly on the typical deployment approach, because we're finding that there are some very quick wins here, and a lot of organisations will typically start off with a sort of core e-invoicing foundations, move on to start receiving PEPPOL invoices, and they don't have to be a separate, discrete task. They can be run in parallel before moving on to PEPPOL orders. And we're talking about quite aggressive and short time frames. And you can see from the previous slide about Newcastle, we can get deliver serious value and benefits in a very short time frame. So the e-invoicing foundations are typical from signature through to go live is 3 months. PEPPOL invoices, I've got down there 3 to 6 months, but there's nothing stopping you starting on that project in parallel to the core invoicing service, with maybe PEPPOL orders coming online at a slightly later stage. But the reason why we talk about it in that sort of format is as you start moving up the document types, you deliver more value. But we want to deliver the quick wins first. So let's get the invoicing working first, and with more documents and document types coming on board, greater value is delivered to you as a buying organisation in the NHS. So I'd like to move on to poll question 2 now. And that is, what do you foresee as the biggest challenge to roll out PEPPOL in your organisation? Is it 1, the alignment of finance and procurement functions? Because we are talking about, traditionally, document types that might traditionally, ownership of that might sit in 2 different areas. You've got the invoice and you've got the order. Is it 2? The work involved to integrate and deploy a solution. 3, adoption within supplier community to get rid of those paper documents and move your suppliers to trade electronically. Or 4, prioritization of PEPPOL over other projects. So we're just going to move over to the polling question, and we'll open that up shortly.
All right, thank you very much. The results are in, and coming in at about 90% of the audience, the top answer was prioritization over other projects. Thank you so much for participating.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for participating in that poll. There's some interesting results coming back, and to get a feeling of how PEPPOL is being prioritised in your organisation, which comes out on the top from the polling. Just finishing this set of slides off, then, just why choose Capita and Cloud Trade? Firstly, we are a certified PEPPOL access point. We've been involved in this since day one. Selected as one of the 7 certified to participate in the demonstration of technology, and have been working in this area ever since. We've got tight integration with Integra Centros and a tight partnership with Capita. So you buy and you engage with Capita, you engage with a integrated solution delivery team. We provide e-invoicing to over 40 NHS trusts and a similar number of local government authorities. So we've got a great heritage in the health sector. We know a lot of the suppliers by first name terms. In fact, I think I have a couple of them on the fast dial. And that's proven by the clients and the network that we already have on board. What we find when we engage with a new prospects and clients is that we typically have between 50 and 70% of the invoice volume already on board. And you can see that, what I didn't mention about the Newcastle example is why we're able to remove so much paper in such short time frame. It's not only about removing the barriers for the suppliers, but it's also about the maturity of the network that we already have. And I do really want to play on the fact that, going back onto that network effect, it's the Cloud Trade network with the established community of NHS suppliers, and PEPPOL is small but growing. What we're finding is it's starting at the top with a very large supplier organisations that have come on board, and I'm not sure the numbers exactly now, but we're talking hundreds and potentially thousands, I think, now signed up to PEPPOL. But what you will also find is those organisations that have signed up are some very big organisations that everybody uses, so big volumes of invoices coming through. I should also mention, naturally, the supplier community, the maturity of the PEPPOL supplier community is being influenced dramatically by the number of buyers that are coming on board. And as Carmen said in her piece, at the beginning of this year, I think we had 7 NHS buyers that are in a position to receive invoices, send orders. That's, over the last couple of months, has jumped up to 60, and we expect that to be about 250 by the summer. So as the buyer community grows, the supplier community grows, because the suppliers will see the benefits of being able to send electronic invoices through one access point to 250 buyers. And fast higher supply adoption rates, as I mentioned, by looking at this as a 2 or 3 phase approach, we can very quickly, in under 3 months, deliver significant benefits. So thank you very much for attending. Oh, I should also say, sorry, it's not just about invoices, orders, order acknowledgements, it's the whole P2P supply chain. But thank you very much for attending the webinar today and listening to Carmen, myself and Chris. We're just going to open the floor to a Q&A session for 5 minutes or so. Let me just see if when the questions come in. There's been a good set of questions, so thank you very much for that. So I'm going to pick sort of maybe the top 4 or 5. And first here, I see that how many NHS buyers are currently signed up? Well, I think that question might have actually come in while I was talking, but just to re-emphasize this, there are 60, just over, I think, 60 NHS trusts. I mean, that's grown considerably over the last couple of months. That are now in a position to receive e-invoices and send orders out via PEPPOL. With SBS coming online, and we are told that that should be in the next month or 2, we're expecting that to jump to about 250 NHS buyers around by the summer time frame. So you can see that the juggernaut, it's been rolling. It's not quite, I suppose, at breaking the speed limit yet, but we are starting to see some real momentum in PEPPOL, which is great. Another question is, where does the PO data validation come from to verify the invoice carrying a PO invoice received is genuine? There's 3 levels of validation in our system, really, I suppose. One at the basic document compliance level, which is rolled out and deployed for every customer we have. We check that the data is valid on the document. And that is all about saying, okay, have we got all the fields that are required by you and the integration into Centros? And where possible, is that correct? So, for instance, is the invoice date within the last 30 days? Is it, make sure it's not quoted in the future, if that's a rule that you've asked us to put in place? Is the PO number in the right format? Does it all add up? Have we got all the fields we require, et cetera, et cetera? The next level up then is to check against static data that we get from yourselves or from Centros. So if we have a PO feed coming back, we can check that the PO quoted is actually for the supplier, and also that there's enough open value on the PO. And then the next level up is not actually needed for Centros, and that's more to do with simulating what accounts payable clerk does. So that's doing line level pairing. That is typically deployed, or where we've got most experience, that is into a number of Oracle clients, because Oracle actually needs that to automate their matching process. So the next question is around, assuming there is some data feed from Integra carrying current PO status. Yeah, sorry, yes, that is. So I've just answered that question already in the previous answer. Another one is, how do suppliers send PEPPOL invoices, and is there any charge? Good question. Now, a supplier, as per Carmen's point about the 4-corner model, and also my schematic about how they interact, the access points interoperate, a supplier can sign up to any access point. We'd love them to sign up to Cloud Trade, but they don't have to sign up to Cloud Trade. They can be on any service provider. and I'm not going to spoil this by mentioning some of the competition, but I'm sure people are aware of other players in this marketplace. PEPPOL allows that supplier to send their documents to that access point. That access point then posts them to us. They look it up in a directory because the invoice will quote a PEPPOL destination ID, and think of it in terms of a telephone number. They're quoting a telephone number on their invoice, and that access point will look up their telephone number to work out, is it Vodafone, is it Orange, is it O2, who to post that invoice to. And that's basically what they're doing. So they work out, actually, it needs to go to the buyer who's registered on Cloud Trade, that comes to us, and we'll send it down. So it depends on the services that access point offers. The suppliers will dictate on how they send their invoices. If they're signed up to Cloud Trade, we offer a number of options. By far the easiest is just to send a PDF, of an application-generated PDF invoice. But as I said, it doesn't need to be Cloud Trade. Another good question, actually, I think this might be just from a timing perspective, I think we're just running 1 or 2 minutes over, so I'll make this the final question, is can I receive all invoices and send orders across geographic boundaries? Very good question, and the answer is absolutely yes. And that's what PEPPOL's all about. It's about creating a set of standards and and document types that allow interoperability across access points. So if somebody wants to send an order to a supplier that's sitting in Scandinavia and they're registered on PEPPOL, they can do that. There is a set of, I suppose, PEPPOL authority requirements that sit over the top of PEPPOL, which we as access point have to acknowledge in order to get through. So, but again, that's our problem, not your problem. So a good set of questions, and thank you for posing those. Hopefully that all makes sense. And just in closing, I'll just hand over to Chris.
Right, thank you everybody, and thank you for your time today. Thank you, Richard, Carmen, everyone who's participated. If you just go on to the next, brilliant. Okay, thank you. I've gone on to the next slide at the end. Just before going, I would say in rounding up, we'll email you tomorrow with a copy of the webinar slides together with a link to a short survey. It's really important to us to get a good level of feedback from the survey, provides us with some insight in how we might communicate and work with you, potentially as a trusted partner moving forward. That is Cloud Trade and Capita together in partnership. You'll be given the opportunity to have a free discovery call as well. So listening to the content and some of the polling questions, there's certainly a number of yourselves who are on a journey, which is time-bound to a degree. You're looking to do something, so why not take us up on our offer and let us come in and talk to you about your individual challenges and the journey you're on, and how can we partner with you to help. That's all from me. So again, thank you everybody. Thanks for joining.